What's up, everybody?
How are we doing? How's everybody's Thursday going?
Happy Thursday. Welcome to another day of Daily Gaming News, July 2nd.
Coming right in your faces and eardrums.
Coming hot. Thank you so much, Kyle Whitey. Thank you so much, Kane. Thank you so much for all your support on our new venture.
Yes, as we have been jumping in this week and digging into everything going on right now in the gaming industry, there's a lot. And our top story, as we talked about yesterday, will be one that we lead off with today.
So, that amazing Unreal Engine 5 tech demo you saw was only as GPU intensive as Fortnite.
So we're taking it that none of us have forgotten that UE5 tech demo, and who could have? Epic Games in a press release said that the upcoming engine the company is aiming to quote-unquote achieve photorealism on par with movie CG and real life. And the demo we all saw didn't fail to impress these ambitions on us. But what we didn't see is how GPU intensive this demo was, and it turns out not all that much.
We recently spoke to Epic Games and learned a little more about making Unreal Engine 5. Vice President of Engineering Nick Penwarden said, quote, "I can say that the GPU time spent rendering geometry in our UE5 demo is similar to the geometry rendering budget for Fortnite running at 60 FPS on consoles." Let's give ourselves a moment for that to sink in, because this is making me second guess that what I'm showing on the screen is the demo, right?
Right, yeah, So, would you take a moment? Fortnite is an incredibly well-optimized game, all things considered. Along with other esports titles like KAISA'S favorite, League of Legends and CSGO, it's one of those games that can be used as a litmus test for lower-spec gaming rigs. If you have an entry-level build, you should be able to play a game like Fortnite. You don't need one of the very best graphic cards or best gaming CPUs around to be able to play it.
This is all in context of UE5's Nanite, the engine's geometry system that's intended to help create photorealistic objects all the way up to the horizon. It does this by using millions or billions of pixel-sized virtualized micro-polygons to form the geometry of a game scene, but then downscales the detail to match the specific device it's running on and the detail that's required of different objects at any moment in time.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy, Kai. So it used to be the case with games that when they were made, the hardware would run it as well as it could. And this is, of course, an oversimplification, since developers would try to ensure gamers and games weren't so detailed that they couldn't run on a mainstream PC or console hardware. And, of course, there were general optimizations made to increase performance, but for the most part, if you wanted to improve a game's performance, you had to pull back its graphic fidelity, and it looks like this is changing.
We have NVIDIA's DLSS 2.0, a technology that uses an AI neural network to figure out what a game would look like at a super high resolution while rendering it at a lower one. It gives the graphical accuracy of a high-res game while only requiring the performance of a lower resolution. We also have promises of next-gen's Xbox Series X and PS5 storage technologies, and innovative ways of using this hardware to improve performance on the software level through texture streaming.
So now we have another example of how software is making the strides that was previously reserved for hardware. The Unreal 5 is utilizing this nanite technology, and this could mean that games made using the engine are able to maintain a seriously impressive level of graphic fidelity without putting too much strain on the GPU and other components.
Things are no longer being left primarily down to the brute force of a GPU. They're being handled by innovative software and developer solutions, ones that let the seriously gorgeous UE5 tech demo run its geometry rendering as well as Fortnite runs on console.
And this is just one of those moments of like sitting with that information and realizing what that means for the future of gaming is endless almost. You know, it just feels like the games that we're about to get to experience on the next gen. We're looking at Ghost of Tsushima at the end of the cycle for PlayStation 4 and recognizing how just full that game is. What is it going to be like in just 2 years of next gen with this type of technology?
Right, and honestly, my first thought about how this can scale down the resolution to, whatever your hardware can really handle. It can even, make it run very smoothly, even if you don't have, very robust hardware, reminded me of how that was one of the things that cloud gaming touted it would solve, is that you don't need a monster PC to play, let's say, Apex Legends. You can just play it on Google Stadia on your phone. Now, Apex Legends is coming to mobile, but the point of that was you could kind of play this anywhere where you have a device, versus this technology makes it seem like that's going to be more of a thing in the past, and this is another kind of workaround solution to that.
That's true. That's like it's kind of where, if we look at the way in which computers have evolved over the years and how certain aspects of computing have become easier, and ultimately it allows a focus to shift for the engineers and the technicians who design these pieces of technology. And now what we're really looking at here with graphics basically used to be the heaviest aspect of software, now becoming the lighter aspect of software. So much can now be put into these games, and this still look like this breathtaking footage.
I love the innovation that's come in to make these games not so GPU intensive, because thinking about games like Warzone, it seems like some game developers are just, adding more and more and more to just create bigger and bigger games. And I know that that's, going to happen with all these graphics upgrades, but this is saying, hey, maybe not. Like, these games don't have to be like monster games. We can use the technology that you have efficiently and effectively to deliver a good product. I know the PS5 and Xbox Series X are, they're huge consoles, partly because that technology is, so new. But it makes me think that in the future, that's also going to be scaled down. And this isn't just going to be a trend of everything getting bigger. Game files, consoles, everything.
Yeah, that right there is just kind of, again, more information to sit with. As, you see just like the hype is real. And if you are hyped about next gen, right now, more and more information is just coming out to solidify why you should be as hyped as you are. Mm-hmm. What's up, Adros? It's really just a moment of kind of like what we've continued to talk about, is like, I need to be sitting down with this hardware and using it, because I really can't wrap my mind around what this means. Me
either. Like, as you're seeing on the screen, this isn't a cutscene. Like, this is part of the gameplay. Yep. And I feel like I'm just so used to, seeing these things as just like a cinematic sequence versus something I can actually play and I can actually control. And I don't think I'll really understand how fun that is until I get to play it myself.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just that thought process with looking at Ratchet and Clank when they were showing the gameplay for that, and just seeing the jumping from the different worlds and the different dimensions, mm-hmm. and it just moving so seamlessly. How far does that go in that game? Is mm-hmm. it one of those situations where, just like it could be with alternate universes, they could be endless? Will these in and of itself be endless?
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm excited to see more from Unreal Engine 5. I have a lot of faith that it's going to be spectacular, especially when it's being used for other games. But a game that isn't so spectacular is what we'll be reporting on next.
Yeah, as the Crysis Remastered is getting delayed after the trailer that leaked and the screenshots that also leaked failed to impress.
Which is so unfortunate. So the Crysis team actually put out a tweet to address this, and it starts off saying, "Dear Crysis fans, as you know, Crysis Remastered will be coming into the world this year, and at the same time, the Crysis IP will debut on Nintendo Switch.
Your passion for the Crysis franchise deserves an undeniably high-quality game, and we are committed to delivering just that. To ensure that we meet that commitment, we will need to delay the launch on all platforms and the trailer premiere by a few weeks. Because they already started, pre-orders for Switch will stay open, but pre-orders for all of the platforms will be delayed as well.
The features you're looking forward to are already set, but we want to take the time on polishing the game. You might be aware of the leak yesterday, and we want you to know we've seen all the reactions, the good and the bad, and we're listening. We're still working on a number of things in-game as well as the storefront. Please keep the love coming, and rest assured you'll have the game you love shortly."
This extra time until release will allow us to get Crysis Remastered up to the PC and console-breaking standard you've come to expect from Crysis games. We hope you understand what we're up to and that you stay with us while we take the time to make a few more improvements. Stay tuned, and we'll have that game in your hands as soon as we possibly can.
We'll keep you updated on our progress, so please hang in there and check back for updates. Thank you, Team Crysis and Crytek.
You know, I am all for the delay in order to ensure that your game is high quality. I do find it amusing being Crysis as the standard for PC Master Race for so long of like, can your PC run Crysis? And we looked at the Crysis Remastered trailer as a whole, and they were like, clearly it can't. So we need to bring it back to the drawing board before we let it back out.
Right, I was looking at some footage from Crysis Remastered, and this is from 2007, and this is from 2020, and I didn't really notice a difference. Maybe the differences are subtle. Here's from 2007, and then some footage from the remastered. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm looking for something more. I mean, ultimately, it matters most that the game runs properly. So right now, as I said yesterday, I'm playing Fable, the Anniversary Edition, and it's still a little clunky because it's an older game, but a lot of the things that can look cleaner do, like the menus look all clean and in high resolution, you know, even though they wouldn't have been if I weren't playing the remastered version at all. But it reminds me also yesterday of Amazon's Crucible and how that was taken back into beta for updates. And I know gamers are really harsh critics. I hope that some of these studios and developers don't take the criticism too harshly or too much to heart. Yeah,
I'm with you, Kai, there. You're going to definitely need that 4K monitor to get the full visual appreciation of Crysis. However, you know, if you are doing a remaster, something that I felt when I was playing the Halo 2 remaster was it was a pure overhaul. And playing it, I felt like that with the Master Chief Collection. Mm-hmm. And you just showing that trailer back and forth, I was immediately aware of not having the same experience, but being like, what is going on right now? You know? And what so that was that moment of like Squazy was saying there is like, there's no way they can afford to be non-impressive for a game that was, you know, this standard in gaming for so long.
Right, it must maybe crush a lot of dreams, maybe of some gamers to look back very fondly on Crysis as you said, the pinnacle of PC Master Race. And you know, seeing it now, it doesn't really compare, which is understandable. We've come so far since 2007 when it comes to graphics, when it comes to what games can really do. I mean, you just saw the Unreal Engine 5 demo. We are leaps and bounds from where we were. If the game is delayed a few weeks, because I believe that's what they said in the tweet, I don't know how much work they can do in only a few weeks, however.
Yeah, that's another observation there that wasn't really like clicking until you just said it was, is a few weeks enough? Are you going to be able to make the changes in a few weeks that you think you need to make? Because it would be even worse if they were like, we delayed, they release, and the community's like, this is trash.
Right.
Like,
this
and
still
then
isn't any better.
That would really have an effect, yeah.
Oof, I wonder what they're planning on doing in these next few weeks. I'm glad that it's coming to the Switch. I think that's just another thing that proves how surprisingly powerful the Switch can be sometimes. Yes. That, you know, this game, which was pretty much a tech demo for PCs, is now being played on the flimsy little Switch, which we all know and love. Which to me says a lot. So I'm glad they're still, you know, keeping this game in the minds of gamers. Hopefully it will be seen in a positive light after their few weeks of delay and not so much in a negative one.
Yeah, very much so. But there was a game recently that we talked about yesterday that actually, when I sat down with the gameplay, it did not fail to impress me, as Ubisoft's new Hyper Scape Battle Royale has soared to the top of the Twitch charts.
Nick Stat from The Verge reports Ubisoft's new battle royale, Hyper Scape, was officially announced today in an unconventional fashion, by rising to the top of the Twitch charts. Ubisoft has been teasing the game, which was leaked earlier this week with a fake company website and via cryptic Twitter updates. Starting at 12 p.m. ET, the game effectively went live in a technical test phase, when various Twitch and YouTube personalities were permitted to start streaming the game, and just 30 minutes later, it amassed nearly 500,000 viewers. The publisher is planning an official reveal livestream for 2 p.m. ET.
So, Ubisoft's strategy here is reminiscent of the abrupt surprise launch of Respawn's Apex Legends and the Twitch-focused beta of Riot's Valorant. Developers for both games use streamers and direct marketing approach to build an organic appeal for the game beyond the standard media cycle of most big-budget game releases. And it looks like Ubisoft is doing the same here.
Of course, we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, like whether any of these streamers or which streamers are being paid to play the game right now. Hyper Scape has no concrete release date right now because Ubisoft hasn't issued any form of messaging about when it's entering beta or really anything else about the game as of right now.
But Turner Tifu Tenny, best known for playing Fortnite, was pulling more than 50,000 viewers playing the game as the most watched channel on the platform. And scores of other streamers are playing the game to massive viewership too. So whatever Ubisoft is doing here, it is clearly working.
Last I checked, Tifu had about 30,000 viewers. He's still going super strong, and this reminds me of the big Valorant drop as well, and how that amassed an incredible amount of viewers so quickly. What do you think about this new strategy to release games?
It makes sense. It's very parallel to the film and TV industry when they hire, influencers in their films and they use them to promote. It makes sense business-wise. It works better here in the gaming industry because these are gamers who are popular playing games versus people who are personalities that aren't necessarily artists or actors jumping into that medium. So it's pretty seamless there. And also something that I took away from it was like the game itself looks really fun. I was surprised by how much I was like, I kind of would like to play this right now.
It looks cool. It looks maybe less cyberpunky than I anticipated. Maybe I'm just so used to seeing Cyberpunk 2077's Night City, and I was like, this doesn't take place at night. There aren't neon lights absolutely everywhere. Yeah. But this still has that feel. Apparently, there's a lot of vertical play, vertical gunplay and gameplay, and that adds into the strategy. This is some footage from Jack Frags' YouTube about this game. There's already so much content. What's up, Danny Boy? There's already so much content out on YouTube. When I was looking up Tifu playing this game, it was already like, Tifu's impressions, like 10 videos about that. And I'm like, didn't this game just start a few hours ago?
Dude. Yeah, clickbait works and it gets you the views that you need. I would say is so something that I kind of felt when watching this felt very much like kind of like a Quake Unreal tournament style of movement. I loved the aspects of we speculated on this, like it will be a very vertical game, and that this game will show. It's already showing to kind of have some added layers to the BR experience. With looks like there's like the special powers there when he turns into there's a point when he turns into a ball and he's able to bounce around. There's these different power-ups in the game that I'm kind of like, this could be more of that Quake BR set in this type of setting that could feel very well in a place where Battle Royales almost all seem kind of like the same.
And I'm impressed with the detail on the roofs and around this whole cityscape. It feels kind of Overwatchy, kind of Valorant-y, kind of Apex-y. Maybe that's just the style of games, the trend in design. But it feels like an Overwatch, level of detail in a map, but to the scale of a Battle Royale. And it does look fun. I wonder if this is going to have a lot of traction still, if it's just going to be really hyped, because this is the first time we've seen any announcements from this. The game, as we said, is not out yet. It's just currently in a test phase, but there are a lot of streamers streaming this game right now, and it still might be the top game streamed on Twitch.
Yeah, there's an element here of what you were saying that I'm seeing even more now is the the Overwatch set within like an Apex Legends type of,
yeah.
of it's a great way to put it. The speed, it was one of the things that Jack Frags was saying was it's very cat and mouse. So that chasing aspect of the game, I think that's something that's going to be fresh. That with Apex has a lot of like open landscape, whereas this seems to have a lot of buildings that you can hide in and dodge through and run around into, and so it's giving me that like Mirror's Edge feel that we were kind of speculating on yesterday.
And it looks like you can be really mobile in this game with those huge leaps and bounds, jumping off of buildings to the ground, going inside, going outside. There are a ton of places to hide. I wonder if this is going to be, I guess, like more exciting or fast-paced level of gameplay because you can move around the map so quickly, it seems.
Yeah.
And how that's going to compete with the other battle royales out there in terms of feel and style.
Yeah, I would say, hey, what's up, gamer? I would say that right now I can't name a current BR that this setting and feel is the same. Mm-hmm. So that's something that gives it its own strength as well. And I'm curious to see who's involved with the team putting this together, because it is going to come out as free to play. So you've already amassed people right there off of that. Mm-hmm. And there just does also seem to be a lot of potentially cool elements to, like, when he turns into that ball, is there a possibility of changing that visually? Like, does that color get to change? Could you like look like a beach ball? Could you look like a soccer ball? Are there possibilities there where they're going to allow the skins to really take a place here?
And going back to the marketing strategy of this, I am personally a fan of having streamers and influencers, stream this game on their own channels, whether they're paid or not. I think it's cool to see some of my favorite streamers play this game. I was just clicking on the top few streams, and a lot of streamers aren't really my style, where playing this game, the dialogue is pretty much like, yeah, bro, like, come on, bro, like, yeah, you got it, yeah, bro, yeah. And I was just like, I love you all. I love you, Tfue. I love your content. Not really my style. Like, I hope that some of these marketing teams are sponsoring, what's up, Coombs, are sponsoring, like, a variety of streamers. Like, maybe someone like for Valorant, like, both Summit and Pokey were playing. And those are two, very different types of streamers. But, they're both top dogs. They're both good at what they do. They're both great at games. So I think going forward, I haven't looked too much into it if there is a lot of variety currently playing this game, but I hope that's something that is kept in mind when it comes to influencer marketing.
That's true. That's a good point. You don't really want to draw over the Call of Duty bros to a game like this when maybe you're looking for more of that mass appeal. So yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'm excited to see this jump into some sort of closed beta so we can sign up. Or even like a public beta happen, because this would be a style for me that I would love to play and see what all Hyper Scape has to offer.
Me too. It looks like a really fun game, really exciting, and I can't wait to try it out for myself when it finally drops in maybe an invite beta or an open beta. And we have yet to see when it will come out, and we are waiting for announcements on that.
Yep, and another battle royale, one that we just mentioned in this conversation, has had a really interesting moment, as Respawn has accidentally released an Apex skin without its hitbox.
When you're rushing to put out new content, it's easy to make small mistakes. You'd hope it wouldn't be as glaring as what Respawn managed, however.
So, with the Lost Treasures event in Apex Legends came the Marble Goddess skin for Wraith. It's a good-looking skin, so naturally a lot of people flocked to pick it up. The only problem was Respawn had inadvertently shipped the skin without its hitbox data.
Apex Legends design director Jason McCord explained the issue on Twitter. Seemingly caught up in the fray, the skin's hitbox managed to slip through the cracks. You'd think players would have been rushing to grab a skin which would give them such an advantage, however, it wasn't that simple.
So the engine has a built-in failsafe where if a hitbox is an input, it creates its own. And boy, did that have the opposite effect. The hitbox that was constructed was a rectangle which is vastly bigger than Wraith's tiny frame, making her an easy target.
And as you can see in this image, which was pulled by a user, they're shooting in between Wraith's feet and are doing damage because the hitbox is just a huge automatic rectangle around the whole skin. And has made this very hard for players who are using this. So to fix this glaring error, they'd have to push out a patch which would need to be approved by Sony and Microsoft. Far too long of a wait for such a game-breaking bug.
So in the meantime, they've opted to immediately release a server patch which required no downloads from users, bypassing the approval process. And this stopped Wraith players taking damage when shot in their humongous hitbox. But to the players shooting them, they would still see hits registering. This obviously causes all sorts of confusion and controller breaking.
According to Jason McCord, the client-side fix is hopefully coming today, hopefully drawing the end to the chaos one skin can cause to a game.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I feel like this is the first time I've seen a mistake out of Respawn as drastic as this.
This is a pretty big mistake, and seldom you see any games coming out with a mistake like this. It makes me wonder what's happening at Respawn. I mean, maybe this is just, a developer messed up. There's nothing more to it. But we were talking about how Apex Legends is coming to mobile, and we were thinking, is that really important to, Respawn's strategy around Apex Legends? What does that mean for the future of Apex? And how some people working at the studio left because there's such a crunch culture. And so I'm thinking, is this mistake part of that crunch culture? Is this a result of that?
I think you hit it on the nose there because it feels like it, in a rush to get something done and out because you're like, new content, we have a schedule, we got to hit that schedule, we got to make sure we're there and we're on point. Mm-hmm. Something like this occurs, and on both sides, just kind of like what Gamer was saying, I'd be livid. Is I'd be livid as the person playing with the skin, and I'd be livid as the person shooting at the person with the skin, because it's like, well, I'm clearly indicating that I'm hitting this person, but then it's also not killing them, and then the person's also like, you're shooting in between my legs, and I'm getting hit. So there's just like this huge cluster of a problem that needs to be solved immediately. And unfortunately, with Sony and Microsoft's time to release an actual patch, it's going to sit for a little bit.
I'm at least glad that there was a failsafe in place, because if there was no hitbox at all, then, that would cause, I feel like, even more uproar amongst the community of all these of all these Wraith skins in the final circle, just no one dying because you can't get hit because you have no hitbox. So at least it was cool to see that they had a failsafe in place, even though it wasn't really a good one. Coom says, I guess this is why games stay in beta. Cluster fudge, that's what this is, LOL from Kane.
It really does. A cluster fudge indeed. When you're now watching Respawn, I think we should pay attention to the frequency in which this occurs. Mm-hmm. I think that'll really drive home the message of why you saw some of the OGs of Respawn go off to do their own thing, because the new direction that they were taking was one that the original team didn't really want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And if more like this does occur, what does that mean for Apex? What does that mean for its longevity? Because too much of this can eventually sour a community.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what the community feels of this mistake, if maybe there have been other mistakes in Apex that we just haven't really paid attention to, because I don't think either of us are really, entrenched in the Apex community, or if this was just a one-off thing. I feel like I haven't heard in, I guess, the general sphere of gaming too much from Apex specifically, besides things about the new season, the new legend, the new character, and their event that was happening with like treasures and chests, and it was mostly, content updates from Apex versus a spectacular failure that came across as this Wraith skin.
For sure. I would also say, if they respond to this the right way, some sort of apology, some sort of gift back to the community, some sort of some choice to be like, hey, not only did we say we did wrong, but our actions will also follow our words, and we'll throw you guys some points or some extra XP or however they may do that. That's something that happens with Call of Duty quite often, where they'll do like double XP. Yeah, where they'll do the double XP weekend. as a kind of way that seems to be like, hey, we're sorry for this patch or for these problems. Because after this recent update, there definitely have been some issues. Gift packs. Yeah, do that. Give everyone a skin for free, Coons. It's a great idea too. Just something as a gesture to try to keep people from focusing on the negative, because this hopefully doesn't become a trend with Apex Legends.
And those gestures of goodwill do go far. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm still gonna be mad at this company no matter what they do. And then they're like, here's a free spray, and I'm like, oh, okay, like we good now. Like, okay, you made your apology. I'll take it. I understand mistakes happen to everyone.
They do, yeah. And I would say because I can't think of anything else, it feels like a first kind of strike for me with Apex. Whereas this narrative could change at the frequency that it might occur. Hopefully, this was the last time.
We'll be keeping a close eye on Apex, but another company has also made a mistake, as Halo fans think that Mega Bloks toys may have spoiled a Halo Infinite plot point.
This is a very interesting one. So, Jordan Oleman from IGN reports that a series of Halo Infinite Mega Bloks toys have surfaced, with some fans alleging that the designs may have spoiled one of the upcoming games' plot points.
So, we're going to show this image on the screen. If you don't want a Halo spoiler, please mute for a few minutes and don't take a look. So, as spotted by user KittyRules808 on Reddit, one of the images found on the Mega Constructs Halo webpage, which at the time the IGN article was published with this information was down for maintenance, shows an enemy from the game with a peculiar helmet on their pauldron.
So the brute-looking character seen above, in the middle next to Master Chief, who could be a part of the Infinite's recently confirmed antagonist Legion, the Banished, seemingly has Jameson's Locke's helmet attached to his shoulder right there. Locke was a new protagonist in Halo 5 Guardians who was believed to be very much alive before this image surfaced.
Eurogamer managed to snap up some of the images before the Mega Bloks site was taken down and noticed that this brute's name is apparently Hyperius. Other details revealed include a new vehicle called a skiff and a gigantic Pelican playset, featuring John 1:17 and the pilot who brings him back online, which you may remember from the game's E3 trailer last year.
It's just some food for thought for those of you chomping at the bit for more Halo news. We'll hear more about Infinite during Microsoft's upcoming July Xbox Series X showcase for their first-party titles, and where hopefully it will either be confirmed or...
I think this is so funny that this is just like Mega Bloks toys with like huge Halo spoilers. If this is true, you know, this character that we thought was very much alive, it's like, oh, well, now their helmet is on this brute's shoulder, so probably not alive anymore.
Yeah, that's a point there that it's kind of like when you're looking at the design of the toy, you're like, oh, wow, it's a really cool looking toy. But then there's the level of detail that is, you know, wrapped up into the actual narrative. Mm-hmm. And I'm surprised this slipped through the cracks from people over at Microsoft as well as 343, that their marketing department would be examining these things before you're, you know, posting the image.
It makes me think of, you know, what a huge network of people are involved with the game release. It's not just the game, it's also the marketing, it's also the merchandise, and, you know, how that merchandise is marketed, because I could definitely see if there's already just a Master Chief, you know, Mega Blok released to say like, oh, you know, Halo Infinite, you all know Master Chief is in it, here's Master Chief, versus, you know, showing these other parts of the game that haven't been revealed yet, like a skiff, which is a new vehicle that's going to be in that game, and how when you are in charge of, you know, a game release, there are just so many moving parts and so many opportunities to slip under the radar that I'm honestly surprised. We get a lot of leaks from games, but I'm honestly surprised there aren't more. Yeah,
that's a great point. You have a lot of potential failures that could happen with everyone who's involved. And as we look at something like this, there's a point to be made with how quick they took down the image to possibly back up these claims and these findings. I think if it was something they had left up and didn't acknowledge it, it would be a lot of speculation without like, oh yeah, this was definitely something that was spoiled. But to remove it is a symbol of like, oh, we made a mistake, and now people are like, wait, okay, is he dead? Does he die at some point? Is he prisoner and that's why he has the helmet? So you have all these questions now that are surrounding it, whereas you, the storytellers, were like, you couldn't just dodge any of this before the game actually came out.
Right? And I love how fast the internet is on picking up hints like this. Like, what are the chances that people are gonna, be noticing all these things? If you're not data mining to just like come across, maybe this person was just looking at Mega Bloks, maybe they were looking for Halo merchandise, who knows? But how fast the internet is to catch any leaks, any slips through the cracks. You have to be so careful with what you post out there.
Yeah, I love Coombs' comment there. Look, he's just nice. He let him borrow the helmet. That is the most wholesome response. Here, my enemy, you take my helmet.
Please.
I like this. This should be what we actually make it out to be. We've learned the storyline. Halo gets pretty wholesome, guys. Get ready.
It's a story of friendship. But a story that's not about friendship at all may be coming, or is confirmed actually, coming to Marvel.
This is pretty big news, and I'm curious where this goes, as Marvel has acquired the rights to Alien and Predator franchises.
This is big news. So Callum Williams at Game Rant reports that Marvel announces it has acquired the IPs for Alien and Predator, meaning it can pursue new comics surrounding both iconic sci-fi franchises.
And just a moment to take in, these characters, the aliens and predators, have popped up in various comic book series. There's one-shots, and many of the times where this IP ends up infecting other IPs.
Infecting.
Yeah, you like that? Sorry.
I like that. That was
good. So when it comes to iconic 80s actions franchises, very few can stack up to that of Alien and Predator series, both of which found near universal acclaim and developed huge fan bases for their incredible worlds and, more importantly, their terrifying antagonists. The fact that both have seen countless reboots since they were first devised over 30 years ago shows that they have an enduring legacy with pop culture, and that will likely not go away anytime soon.
That statement appears truer than ever with the news that Marvel Comics has acquired both properties and will be developing new stories centered in each of the seminal sci-fi universes. The line of comics was originally owned by Dark Horse Comics, who has been releasing new stories about both series since the late 80s. However, it seems that agreement will now come to a close, and Marvel will look to leave its own stamp on both the Predator and Alien worlds.
And to cement this exciting changing of hands, David Finch, a renowned comic artist, heralded for his work on Batman, Moon Knight, and the New Avengers, drafted up some new images of Alien's dreaded xenomorph and Predator titular foe. Finch's work on the xenomorph paints a towering, shadowy interpretation of an iconic sci-fi villain, showing it standing in a cargo bay on its hind legs. His interpretation of the Predator is far more tongue-in-cheek, with Finch depicting it looming atop the Avengers Tower with a spear in one hand and the disembodied head of Iron Man in the other.
IGN, who exclusively revealed the story, was quick to point out that the second image is not to confirm that a Predator and Avengers spin-off is in the works. Instead, it's meant to merely be a fun piece of art showing that the Predator is ready to cause some chaos through the talented storytellers over at Marvel. Speaking on the IP's changing hands, Finch claimed, quote, "Alien and Predator are the two of the most identifiable, iconic characters of all time, and I love them for that. I've seen every other movie they've ever been in, and I cannot wait to see them wreaking havoc in the Marvel universe."
And Marvel's editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, was quick to comment on his excitement to see these two legendary IPs come into the fold, stating, "I can clearly remember when I was where I was when I saw each of these modern masterpieces for the first time, and reveling in how both masterfully they weave extraterrestrial dread and drama into some of the most iconic scenes we've ever seen on film." And he continues to promise that fans that are waiting more Alien and Predator news is on the way, claiming we can share more in the coming months.
This is big news. Marvel's just getting bigger and bigger now, especially that it's, still under the Disney umbrella.
Yeah, this is big news, and one that it fits so well with everything that's happening. I wouldn't be shocked. I think Alien versus Predator are owned by 21st Century Fox.
Maybe.
And I'm pretty sure that now Disney owns the rights to some of their film franchises.
Right.
I wonder if this will get tossed in there as well, and they start to make a push towards, the Marvel Cinematic Universe actually pumping these films out with inclusion in their already established cinematic universe. That would be epic.
That would be epic, and I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, and I'm a very casual Alien and Predator fan. I've seen some of the movies and fell asleep through half of them, as I do through most movies that I watch.
Did you at least get to the iconic, get to the chopper, go, now,
Probably.
do it?
Probably somewhere in there, but I think I really like these darker, more intense characters, and if there is a Marvel movie in the future with these characters in it, I would definitely see it.
Yeah. One quick comment to Ray. Thank you so much for the appreciation of me being in the Matrix. And yeah, KDA, a Predator versus Venom. I think any superhero, anti-hero, supervillain that we can think of. I mean, can you imagine? Think of a supervillain from the Spider-Man franchise, where maybe you take like a Kraven the Hunter, who's more of like an anti-hero, and now Kraven is being hunted by Predator. You have these matchups and mashups that we could see that would just be amazing storylines to sink our teeth into, and then to just speculate on, is this going to transfer over into live action at some point?
I think that Marvel is becoming a monster of all the comics that it owns, all the IPs that is under Marvel, under Disney. I hope to see. I don't think Spider-Man is officially in Marvel yet, but I hope that that's the next acquisition there, because that's something that fans have kind of accepted Spider-Man as being in the Marvel universe, even if he isn't officially quite there.
Yeah, that's actually something we probably will see in the comics well before we might see anything in live action. But there's a lot there. There's a lot they could really jump into, especially with the Avengers. And these artists don't draw for no reason, so I wouldn't be surprised if we are going to see some sort of out the gate Marvel's Avengers versus Predator storyline with that one Predator image holding a beheaded Iron Man. I mean, it's pretty significant of an image to put out.
Right, and apparently this doesn't, hint at anything that's coming, but fans are going to love this, and fans do love this, so why not have it as a hint of what's to come? Exactly.
Yeah, I think there is just there's a lot we say in public that isn't necessarily what's happening behind the scenes, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some moments take place within the Marvel universe that might be a little shocking, but also just make sense within the inclusion of these two franchises now joining.
And this makes me think that maybe in the future, are we going to see games with these characters? Marvel's been putting out some games that I'm really excited for, and, maybe a few years down the line, we'll see something with these new characters.
That would be really cool, because I know Predator Hunting Grounds is getting consistent updates. I haven't been playing it at all, but they have been intertwining the stories from the movies now in there, where Dutch Arnold did the mocap and voice lines for the game, so you can now play as Dutch. I think more characters will pop up. Hopefully at some point, maybe they'll include an alien aspect to the game. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this started getting pushed out in a more interactive way, like a video game. Yeah.
And speaking of video games, we have some potentially bad news about the price of next-gen titles.
So I think for a long time now, we've all been used to a certain price point, but The Verge is reporting that NBA 2K21's PS5 and Xbox Series X versions will cost $69.99, hinting at a next-gen price jump.
Chaim Gartenberg from The Verge reports 2K Games has announced that it'll sell the next-gen PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the upcoming NBA 2K21 for $69.99. Nice. A $10 increase to the current-gen Xbox One and PS4 versions of the game. And it's the first indication that the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 may be bringing a price increase from the standard $60 that major video games have sold at for years when they arrive this fall.
Yeah, most video games actually have been sold at the $60 price point since the 7th gen console era of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 and the Nintendo Wii, which was a $10 increase from the $50 standard that had preceded it. But if NBA 2K21 is any indication that the $60 era is about to be over, assuming other game follows the 2K games lead here, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X could see $70 games become the new norm for AAA titles.
The price increase isn't out of the blue. As games become more and more complex and detailed, it becomes more and more expensive for developers to create a single title. And we've already started to see prices creep upward in the current generation with more expensive deluxe or gold edition of titles that include extra bonus content, cosmetics, or DLC.
But for players about to shell out several hundreds of dollars on a new console, it's not exactly exciting to see that all new games coming out might be even more expensive too.
Even more frustrating is the fact that in addition to the $60 current gen and $70 next gen versions, 2K Games will also sell a special $99.99 title called Mamba Forever Edition, which includes cross-generation copies. As 2K's press release explains, purchasing Mamba Forever Edition on either current or next-gen platforms provides a copy of the standard edition game on the other generation at no additional cost within the same console family.
Yeah, I'm there with Gamer right now. I missed the $49 ones, and this could be a huge flop for AAA titles. Dynamite, yeah, it just sounds all too familiar. It's because it's virtually identical to the smart delivery program that Microsoft was offering regarding the upgrade. So for the Xbox Series X and Xbox One, the free upgrades like Studio CD Projekt Red or Bungie have promised for Cyberpunk 2077 and Destiny 2, but instead of offering those cross-gen upgrades for free, 2K Games is charging players an extra $30 or $40 for this privilege.
It's even more restrictive than EA's Dual Entitlement program, which is a terrible name, but EA has a program called Dual Entitlement for Madden 21, which offers players a free next-gen upgrade, but attaches a time limit to the offer, because players will have until the launch of Madden 22 to take advantage.
So I have a couple thoughts that come to mind when I hear the statement of the games, because they're going to be on the next gen, they're going to be more complex, they're going to be, they're going to be harder to develop. All I've been hearing from the manufacturers of this console is that's not the case for developers. And in fact, developers will be able to develop games faster because they will have an AI tool assisting in this process. If we know that games are going to be doing that and that the graphics are going to be handled by this new technology, the price increase could be studio and distributor specific and allow us to funnel out the greedy ones as well as, and then more probably focus on the ones who aren't going into this new business format.
Right. What we've been reporting on is that it's been easier, or it's becoming easier than, possibly ever to really create video games. And I understand that some of these are more, I feel like there's a trend where it costs more and more manpower to create games, but now we're kind of going the other way where it's possible to have less, as we've been even talking about Bright Memory Infinite, which was a game that was shown at the Xbox reveal, and you can see it on the screen right now, but this game was created by just one person. One individual Chinese developer, created this using next-gen technology, and the graphics look great, the gameplay looks great, the movement looks great. This was created by one person. And so I am a bit skeptical when I hear about new games costing more to make, therefore they need to sell it more, and it makes me wonder if this is just a fallacy, if it's inherently not true, if maybe it's a way for them to adjust for the price of inflation or the cost of inflation, to say, well, the cost of living, everything has gone up, so we need to charge more for our games, versus just saying that games outright cost more to make.
So your points are really sound and continue the thought process of a lot of gamers. Dynamite said something there about how Dynamite mostly just plays games that are free, like League of Legends.
Me too.
Same. And also being a flop to AAA games. If we recognize that one person made that Bright Memory Infinite, and we recognize that the games are faster to develop, this actually could be a blessing in disguise for the indie community. Mm-hmm. And that no longer will independent games be too too far under the bar of AAA titles,
Right.
but they can now potentially compare to them. And they get to set their own prices based on how they want to distribute with these different, virtual markets, and they get involved with it. This could be actually a wonderful thing for those of us who are like, I'm done with the big studio games and want to start playing more of these smaller teams that are delivering on the scale of a big studio.
That's true. That's a great point. This is a great way for indie developers to be able to compete. I wonder what developers at smaller studios will charge for some of their games, because there is also a perception of, well, more expensive game means a higher quality game. But there is a point, as we've seen with the chat's reaction to next-gen games being $70, there's also going to be pushback of how much money do you expect me to spend on, the next-gen console, if I need extra controllers, if I need extra ways to charge them for the games themselves, for everything that's required. I feel like the prices are kind of getting out of hand, and I realize that, the machinery is so expensive because it is so, cutting edge. But there's also a point where, this is supposed to be for consumers to enjoy. Like, we're talking about, the main core of what makes up gamers versus just more of the hobbyists or the people that, jump at new technology.
Yeah, if this is the shift for some places but not for other places, 2K Games could see a drop in its community. I think one of the things that we saw trend with Electronic Arts when they showed themselves to be more focused on how big your wallets are versus how quality their games are, you saw less people begin to play their product. If this is going to be the case going forward, and we are going to see some of these bigger studios drop, ask for $70 for their games, then just don't buy them. You know what I mean? Like, that'll just be the case, is like, no, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to go buy these games that aren't priced at this point, and I'm having just as much fun, if not more fun.
Right, and that kind of ties into our next topic, which is about the Xbox Summer Games Fest, and there are actually going to be 60 downloadable demos that you can play there, which I am a big fan of demos and being able to try these games before you buy them, especially if they're going to cost $70. You can decide for yourself if that game is actually going to be worth that $70 or not, and you have every right to decide that a game isn't worth that price point.
Damn, Skippy, you better let me get to play this game before I'm shelling out near $100 for permanently owning it. So, the Summer Games Fest event is supposed to have more than 60 downloadable demos. Sam Byford from The Verge reports that with traditional trade shows like E3 and Gamescom's canceled in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, Microsoft is planning to bring a slice of the show floor experience to your living room. As a part of Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest, Microsoft will make dozens of demos for upcoming Xbox One games available to download for a week.
In a blog post, Microsoft's Glenn Gregory cautions that the demos won't always be representative of the final product, since many of the games are some way off from their release. That's standard practice for show floor demos, of course, but it's unusual for a major gaming platform to make unfinished games available to such a wide audience.
There'll be more than 60 demos available, and while the list is still being finalized, Gregory says it should include somewhere between 75 and 100 when the dust settles. Confirmed titles include Price Tales, Destroy All Humans, Haven, Hellpoint, Skatebird, The Veil, Shadow of Crown, Raj, an Ancient Epic, and Welcome to Elk.
Microsoft's Summer Game Fest demo event will be available to access from July 21st to July 27th on Xbox One consoles. The company is planning to show off the next-gen Xbox Series X games at a separate event this month.
So you've been to some of these Gamescoms and these events, and you get to sit and wait in line to play a game. As just someone who suffered that,
Yes.
Are you just like generally excited about the fact that these demos are just going to be digitally available?
Yes, please make them all digitally available. I think that events like E3 or PAX should have a website where it's just like, here are all the demos for all the games. coming out, which might be hard to put together, but would honestly make it so much more accessible to me, so much more accessible to gamers, because oftentimes you have to wait kind of a long time, maybe, you know, like 20 minutes standing there while you've been walking around all day, and then you play the demo, and some people like me like to just like play the demo in private. I don't need to ask any questions, I don't need to talk to the developers, but you know, everyone's just kind of standing wondering what your impression is of the game, which, you know, I totally get, but I would prefer to just, you know, test out a game in the comfort of my own home, because I always feel bad when I walk away from the booth and I'm like, hey, thanks so much. I'm not like, I don't want to say like, I didn't really like your game that much. I'm not going to say that. You know, I just want to leave in peace. So I'm glad that they'll be available to download. I think there is an audience that, you know, does like to go and, you know, be in that environment and be near the booths, but a lot of gamers don't feel that way. Yeah.
And that's something that I missed from when somebody mentioning, Array was mentioning I missed the $49 games. I missed the demo discs. I missed the opportunity to demo most of these games before I got them. And I hope that this is a trend that actually takes on. And if anything, people begin to praise Microsoft for having this as an option, that Sony copies this as well, because there's nothing more frustrating than buying a game and then being stuck in the space of not being able to get a refund, especially in the console market. Whereas in Steam and Epic and Origin, most of them are pretty quick about like getting your refund if you've only played the game for a couple of hours and you didn't really like it. On the console side of things, it's not the same.
It's not, and I'm a fan of downloading demos. I think half the games on my Switch are actually just like demos of games that I want to play if I'm maybe not ready to commit to a game yet, or I've seen the trailer and I've seen screenshots, but I don't know if I'm actually going to like it or not. You know, I'd rather just download the demo and try that out versus, you know, shelling out $15 for a game I may never play again. So I hope this trend stays. I know this is also a result of the ongoing pandemic and how these conventions haven't been able to occur in person, but I hope this also brings light to the fact that a lot more people will be able to play these demos, and you might actually garner more interest in your games if you make a lot of these more available to the public.
Yeah, because if anything, that unsure aspect and perspective of buying a game, watching somebody play it, having someone tell you about it. I don't know how many games I've played where someone's like, oh, I love this game, you should play it, and then they play it and it's not the same. You know, Gamer was bringing up, or Dynamite had brought up League of Legends, and one of the things about League that for me is like, I didn't want to play it. Like I wasn't drawn to wanting to play it, not because I had anything bad to say about it, but it didn't
want to play it.
It just didn't have that pull to me. On the other end of like a game with League in it, when I played a lot of Rocket League, some people had that same thing, and I would try to convince them, like, oh, you got to play it, you got to play it, you got to play it. But if that draw just wasn't organic and they did play it, they would kind of like be like, no, I'm just going to get my money back. And I'm like, my bad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, you know what I mean? I tried to sell you on this game, but once you experienced it, you just realized you didn't like it.
I wonder what chat thinks about all these not E3 events happening, if you've been following any of them. I've been trying to keep up with Twitch Gaming's new channel where they showed the Cyberpunk 2077 episode, and, you know, have been keeping updated. I think most of the announcements I've seen are generally through Twitter or for research that I do for the news versus kind of organically coming up on my feed. So I was wondering, or if anyone watching on YouTube, if you want to leave in the comments if you've been paying attention or tuning in to any of these shows that have been happening to stay updated. Do you miss E3, or are you glad that we have this different approach this year?
That's a great question. I would also throw out there, too, for those of you that have an Xbox One, and these demos are available during this week. I myself do not have an Xbox One, but maybe through my Microsoft Games Pass, I can play some of these on my PC. Try these games out. Tell us which ones you end up liking. Tell us what it's like to play demos again for games that are either unfinished or soon to release, because I think one of the things that's really exciting is like this should get the community buzzing and going and talking, as it always kind of circles around E3 each year.
I love that Kyle Mighty says, lol, you two are my news.
We're so happy to be your news.
I love that. You miss E3, now you might get an Xbox. In future episodes, we'll definitely be talking more about Xbox since we've been talking so thoroughly about the PlayStation 5. I found an article that I didn't slot in today because it was talking about how great the Xbox Series X is, but it was pretty much just saying, well, the design looks cool, arguably. And I'm like, that's not a selling point. And it was like, the teraflops are higher. And it's like, well, we've discussed that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to run better. And so I have yet to see a good article out there that has really, made a good has made a good argument for why I should buy the Xbox Series X, but I'm sure more will be coming out as we see more announcements.
Yeah, and especially with that first party title premiere coming up where they'll be showing off some of these games, maybe seeing their first party titles in actions will actually help sway some of those people or pull our interest over and begin to talk about Xbox more. But they, as we've kind of said, with everything that Sony has done, Xbox is in an uphill battle, and I'm hopeful. I like Phil Spencer. I do. I give him a lot of credit. I think he's in a good position, and I like the vibe that he puts out. I hope the hardware and the software can really just match the level of person that he is, as he basically has that charisma to draw you into Microsoft and the Xbox Series X.
Me too. I'm looking forward to more good news from the Xbox Series X and more good news from Phil Spencer, but that does bring us to the end of our news show for today.
We made it. We did it. Another hour down, bringing you the latest going on in the gaming industry. Thank you all so very much for being here, chatting with us, joining with us in the discussion. We cannot do this without you, so we just say we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate all the donos, all the hosts, all the the sharing of the links. Like, hosting really does help us. This is a new channel, and it is an uphill battle for us to get this off the ground and running. So thank you so much for tuning in and for all of your support. In the panels, you can find Marrone and mine's information if you'd like to follow either of us on social media. And for anyone watching on YouTube or anyone watching the VOD, the show is live every weekday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time.
And something I just saw from Overweight Panda there, something we talked about prior to the stream, our condolences, our thoughts, our prayers, our good vibes are out to those directly impacted by the recent passing of Reckful. And we just want to say that our support and our emotion is with everyone during this time.
Absolutely. We give our true heartfelt condolences. This has been, like another, it's so hard to hear about another tragedy in the gaming community as well. So we really, extend our hearts to anyone who has been affected by that.
Yeah. So on that note, you all have a wonderful day. You are loved and appreciated, and we will hope to see you back here tomorrow for another hour of daily gaming news. For DGN, I am Marrone.
I am Kaisa. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a great day, everybody.